Humans. They were the king's greatest fear. For centuries, the Omedi had lived on Earth unexposed, surreptitiously stepping into Earth matters to offset whatever could affect their continued existence. But things had changed. Technologies were advancing too quickly for their monitoring mechanisms to keep up, and a behavioral agent, designed by a young scientist, had gotten past them. It was during test studies when they heard about it, and they hurriedly planted a mole among the many technicians assisting with the trials. Days later, the mole was found dead. Like King Ailwu, he was 5,000 Earth years, at least that's how old they measured, and both had chosen to look Asian in this life cycle, their essence housed inside very handsome 27-year-old parfaits that were bio-designed to their liking. They grew up together, his family having served Ailwu's ancestors for millennia. Now, Ailwu had come to bury his memory. Standing on the deck of his space liner, the king watched the wall before him evaporate, revealing an ocean planet some 1,000 meters beneath the vessel. A colorful nebula of stars went unnoticed as he sadly gazed down at a stream of incinerated ashes that quickly disappeared over the raging waters. And now, he would return to Earth to deal with the mess that was brewing. The royal body had gotten word that the elders were planning to imprison the young scientist, whose invention had inadvertently caused the man's death. Inadvertently, because the scientist had no idea the Omedi existed, and no one from their citizenry had participated in any of the trials he had set up because they feared detection. Yet it was the elders' intent that could be what exposes the Omedi to a perpetually primitive civilization whose government was determined to keep them that way. The liner began to taxi, then it picked up speed, while Ailwu blankly gazed out at the shrinking blue ball. Then, suddenly, his expression intensified, because a plan to unseat the elders had begun to formulate in his mind. Chapter 1. Federal Complex, Westwood, California, April 2069. The ISA was the epicenter for worldwide government enforcement and innovations in criminal behavior, thanks to Dr. Arthur Kingdom, a brilliant young scientist who was spearheading advancements in criminal psychotherapy. Art was a good-looking nerd with a tough edge, and like most successful prodigies, he had a nemesis, Nord Lundrum, who he spotted in the audience, glaring at him. Nord was Art's age, and except for his beautiful blonde waves, he was average in looks and accomplishments. Also, unlike Art, who grew up poor, the Lundrums had enjoyed generations of wealth and power. Nord sat beside his father, Sir Lundrum, who didn't appear receptive to him being there. But Nord insisted on accompanying him, if for no other reason than to bat back any praise his father might extend the bastard. "Pay attention, you might learn something." Nord sprung up straight in his seat, humiliated by the not-so-quiet admonishment. Embarrassed for him, Art quickly looked away and took in the rest of his auspicious audience, who consisted of military and corporate officials. They had all gathered to witness his demonstration of Rodithol, a behavioral agent he designed to debilitate psychotic criminals. Also present was Philip Awareness. He was sent by his cousin, Mir Ailwu, in a reconnaissance capacity to assess how Kingdom's invention might affect the Omedi's continued existence on Earth. Awareness inhabited a handsome, Swedish 40-year-old parfait. His demeanor, a display of easy confidence after so many lifetimes of affluence. His pulse alerted him to a communication, and was about to step out to answer it, when Art began to address the audience.
Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. Yes, we're ready to get started.
Art's fineness moment was upon him, and it was making him react awkwardly. So he paused to center himself, in actual yoga fashion, by steepling his hands before his face, while placing his right foot against the side of his left knee. A reaction that brought a few chuckles while he remained in that position for a full 30 seconds. Now relaxed, He instructed his team, who dispersed accordingly. Sir Lundrum watched Art with a calculated gaze while admiring how comfortable he was in his own skin. He almost felt sorry for what he had planned for the lad should his experiment succeed. Almost.
Rhodithol Trial 48.
Announced Art. Behind him, a wall of glass lit up, revealing a large room with 48 men and women from age 13 to 70. Some ambled about, while others sat looking out at their audience. Suddenly, an iridescent mist flowed in and enveloped the subjects, who displayed no alarm. A white coat, named Larsky, stepped up beside Art, a pretty young man whose exquisite makeup and puffy curls fit the androgynous rage of his time. Larsky activated a large, overhead X-ray imager that displayed the inner workings of everyone behind the glass wall. Awareness stared in shock, now realizing the elders' demand that they not participate in the trials was a sound decision. The Omedi were well established in Earth society, and that included facilitating their own medical needs. And scans by humans were strictly avoided, since the same could reveal their true presence. On the large imager, an X-ray of one of the subjects began to erode into a smoke-colored darkness. It literally looked like something was exploding inside of the body. Like Art, everyone lowered their attention from the imager to seek out the person inside the glass-walled room. The woman was easy to single out because of her growing agitation. Art had selected 3 men and 3 women in their 40s, because both could be on the cusp of a series of mental and physical changes. The woman was in that group. Suddenly, she grabbed her head and screamed. Then she rammed the glass door, wanting out. Those around her quickly backed off. Larsky's expression matched the murmuring audience's concern.
Dr. Kingdom?
Relax, Larsky. It's working,
said Art, while keying in data. A few seconds later, 2 guards hurried past them and entered the glass room. They took hold of the woman and carted her away, her screams riveting. The murmuring audience prompted Art to address their concern.
You all received a study brief with your invitation, so you should know her reaction was spot on. She will immediately be given the antidote, which will quickly nullify the reaction.
The room erupted in a standing ovation. He actually did it! Sir Lundrum heralded in glee. He looked like a man licking his chops, knowing Kingdom's Rhodithol will seal his plan to elevate his power. Nord was appalled. He did nothing! Father, that woman could die! The applause had begun to die out, so his outburst turned all eyes on them. Shut up! Just shut up! You don't have a clue about anything! Hissed Lundrum, whose body moved stiffly from humiliation as he hurried toward the exit. Nord didn't care that his father was embarrassed. He was angry with him for praising that indigent. Then he spotted Art, watching him with a sympathetic smirk. Unable to bear his pity, Nord sprung up from the chair and hurried after his father. Awareness's attention never abandoned Art, who was shaking hands and chatting with some of his guests. His communicator alerted him to a call, which he responded to in whispered annoyance. Tell my cousin I'll contact him when it's over. Then he cut the connection. He hated being pressed. Plus, he wanted to see if there was an opening that would allow him to engage the scientist in a private conversation. Unfortunately, Art's circle continued to grow, so Awareness decided he had seen enough and walked out. A year later, Rhodithol had been approved and was being deployed worldwide. Chapter 2. Days later, an iridescent mist began to dissipate high above the London skyline. Under the full moon, its wide stream cast a romantic hue over the futuristic city that surrounded the landmark Palace of Westminster. There was a huge digital ad gliding along the Thames River with an androgynous model promoting a popular fragrance. The image changed to a new ad that offered arrests statistics cited by the International Security Agency's Rhodithol initiative. A flash of glistening mist streamed across the display before moving on to the next ad. At street level were warmly dressed pedestrians who moved along the busy thoroughfare surrounded by noise and debris. Suddenly, traffic came to a stop when two constables hustled a crazed-looking man who was wrapped in a straitjacket to a descending police unit. The back door auto-opened to receive its resisting passenger. My head be hurtin' bad." His torment was ignored by the constables. Instead, the officers lifted him up, pivoted him sideways, then slung him inside the unit head first. The man bellowed in pain as the door closed. Then the vehicle lifted and glided away, easing up that lane of traffic. Despite the debris, the area was upscale, and the streets lined with well-guarded high-rises. In a flat above the noise was a lavish penthouse with a panoramic view of the city. A gorgeous man was on the sofa. He was shirtless with a young woman wrapped in his arms. She drew him closer, their lips melting into a passionate kiss that ended when the man shoved her away. She hit the floor, bumping her head on the coffee table.
"What did you do that for?"
she managed, while squinting at the lap of her garment. Something was moving. Maggots! She was quickly on her feet, knocking them off when the man cried out. She looked up at him, her horror magnified by what she saw. His face and torso disintegrated before her eyes as thousands of rapidly mutating maggots consumed him. Screaming, she ran for the door while tearing out of her clothes. Continue this sci-fi action thriller. Listen now on Spotify or through Barnes & Noble. Prefer to read? The ebook is available on Amazon, where it's free to Kindle members for a limited time. Also, you can see color images of the author's key characters at bigroost.com. That's BIGROOST.com.